Hi, this is Lorraine, and I'm doing another video. If you'll give me a second to clear, center, and balance my energy, we'll get started. I wanted to finish one more part of the process of understanding. First, clear, centering, and balancing your energy, setting an intention, and then also this idea of quantum consciousness. I did touch a little bit on manifesting through the law of attraction and karma, how that works. And then I had a very strong vision. I don't think I would call it a vision, though. It's something different that happened that I have never experienced before. But I think I'm just going to start with when I was clearing my energy, the raptors came in first, and I saw a raptor just doing a happy dance. And it's funny because I have a friend who always comes into my consciousness all the time, and quite often. And when he's in a good mood, he does a happy dance. Although I don't know if he really has a happy dance on this plane of existence, but his higher self definitely has a happy dance. And it always makes me laugh. And because he's kind of low-key, a little intense at times when he's around. But so to see these raptors doing that is just hysterical. It really is hysterical. And the other thing I would say is I just wanted to touch on quantum consciousness. So I've talked to you about clearing, centering, and balancing your energy, protecting your energy, putting up a protective field. I talked about setting that intention of clearing, centering, and balancing your energy, and how to ask questions or clarifying questions. The importance of protecting your energy if you're opening yourself up. To ask questions and having energies coming into your space to answer those questions. We discussed the importance of protecting your energy. And so I think a very important part of this manifesting and understanding the flow of energy is starting to getting some type of basic foundation in quantum consciousness. And so I just started, a friend of mine just pointed me in the direction of Michio Kaku. And so I read his book, one of his books, Hyperspace, and watched a bunch of videos that he's done. And the one that I watched first, he goes, he proves the existence of God, or this idea of God as a matrix, as a field of energy. And that kind of got me started on this whole quantum physics, quantum theory, quantum consciousness research and reading. And so I'm just going to touch on a couple things because I'm not a physicist, but the two things that really help me understand or have some basic foundation that I can work from as far as quantum theory were the formula. Schrodinger's cat is actually a formula, and then also this double slit experiment. So I'll just start with explaining this formula, Schrodinger's cat, which talks about wave-based reality. And Schrodinger's cat is a formula based on this cat that's in a box. Excuse me. And so this cat is in a box, and we can't see the cat. So, and we know that the cat is either dead or alive. So we have these two waves of energy, that a live cat and a dead cat. And so we don't know if that cat is alive or dead until we lift the box and we see the cat, right? And so that's what this whole formula is it discusses how two possibilities can exist at the same time at a quantum level, at a wave-based level. And again, I said I'm not a physicist, but when I'm a very visual person, so if you start talking about, get too much into the quantum world, I'm going to get lost, right? But if you give me a cat, an imaginary cat, and a box, or a cat that's existing in two places, which is possible on a quantum level, I can visualize that. And so here I am looking at this box, and within this box I visualized this wave of a live cat and a wave of a dead cat. The whole idea, the theory is, we don't know until we lift the box. So as soon as we lift the box, we see a live or a dead cat. And what this concept or idea of quantum consciousness tells us is that it's not until the conscious mind observes the cat that we know that it's alive or dead. Okay? So it's that thought, or this conscious mind, the observation of this reality determines the wave that will exist and manifest onto this plane. Okay? So it's not until we see, our conscious mind observes this cat that's no longer in the box. Okay? And so I'll put the link to the video that I watched, where Michio Kaku talks about this, Dr. Kaku. And he'll probably give you a better explanation. But I was like, huh. So that actually, and then his discussion of God as a matrix, as a field of energy, got me to read his book, Hyperspace. Because I'm like, I need to, even though I won't walk out of this a physicist, I need to have a better understanding of the foundation of quantum physics as a whole. So that's why I chose to read that book. So then there's also this double slit theory that deals with particles of energy. And so I found another video that I'll put in the description of another doctor, a physicist, who does a really good explanation beyond what I could offer. Because he goes through all the phases, all the different steps they went through to get to this final step that I'm going to just briefly explain, which was so he first shoots light through these two slits to explain to you how a wave of light works, how a wave of light would reflect on the other side of this screen that has two slits in it. Okay, so as the light goes through these two slits, moves to the other side, it creates these waves. interference, I think is what they're called. And so then he demonstrates how particles of energy, when they're shot through these two slits, how they behave. So they behave in a way that creates rows of particles that look like a ladder. And as soon as you shoot them through, you have this visual that they provide of these particles of energy hitting the wall on the other side. They go through this sheet or screen that has two slits in it. They go through the slits, and then they hit the wall on the other side, and they create these this shape of, like, I would call it a ladder. Now, it's not perfect, but you can see how you have these bars that go across. There's some particles that hit in different spots, but for the most part, it looks like what I would call a ladder. Then they set up a camera on the other side of the screen, so they're shooting the particles through these two slits of the screen. They hit the wall, and they have this camera that photographs or that observes the particles moving through one of the slits. And when they do that, the particles create two lines, just two lines, like two rungs on a ladder, right? Just two. So they're like, that's interesting. So when the particles are observed through the camera, they change their behavior. Then they said, we're going to trick the camera, or we're going to trick the particles of energy. We're going to unplug the camera, but we're going to leave the camera on that side, right? And as soon as they do that, the particles go back to creating multiple rungs along the wall. So they go back to behaving as if there is no observation. And they have no explanation for this. But what it tells us is when somehow these particles of energy know when they're being observed, and they change their behavior. And when they're not being observed, they go back to this random placement as rungs, multiple rungs on a ladder. And so he said, I think at the end, if you can explain why that is, then you'll probably get a Nobel Prize. So what that tells me is an observed particle changes its behavior based on the conscious mind that's observing it. And so that's all we know, right? That's all we know. But from my place, from where I'm standing, I see that the conscious mind has an effect on the particles of energy that are observed. And if that's the case, our conscious mind can change the configuration of those particles of energy. So a scientist is going to want to know all the details about how and the why. But being a spiritual person that I am, I accept the fact that there are things beyond my comprehension that I don't need to understand, but I will accept from my spiritual foundation. I will accept that there is a creator in this universe that created me and all things in this universe, that has given me the power to affect the world around me through my conscious mind. Okay, so we already have a little basic foundation for that conscious mind affecting particles of energy. But I believe, based on what I understand and know about the spiritual laws and about the flow of energy and about karma, about manifesting, about abundance, from what I understand and what I've experienced through my spiritual endeavors and my spiritual upbringing and my spiritual commitment, is that I could manifest positive or negative experiences in my life. And I accept that my conscious mind empowers me in this endeavor. And I accept that we have some scientific evidence to prove that. And I accept that we do not completely understand it. But I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. But for me, it's important to start to understand, start to crack the seed and open it up and look at what's inside, right? Start examining it. But I don't have to understand every part of it to start experimenting myself. And I would have to say that the last 6 years or 5 years since my spiritual awakening, I think it's 6 years now, 2016, June, has been a huge experiment in spiritual growth and practicing living from a place of love and light, releasing the negativity, releasing the traumas from my life, seeing the world from a new perspective, not allowing the negativity and the darkness that I have experienced from others, and I would say the lesser, the poor decisions I've made that have affected my karma in a negative way, not allowing those things to weigh me down, not allowing those things to define me, the negative, and finding my way out of that and working from a place of love and light. That is my own experiment in changing my behavior, in changing my thinking, in changing the way I not only perceive the world, but the way I respond to it, and how that abundance has come back to me. And it has come back to me, but I know it from my own personal experience. And so as I put this stuff together and I experience it myself, I see value in it, and I want to share that information. And so this class that I'm teaching is going to create a foundation for people who are just, I'm hoping, create a foundation for people who are just opening up and are interested in understanding their own inner divinity, their own spirituality, and how they can tap into it, develop it, and utilize it to help them find their path and purpose and create change in this world in the best way possible. I would say the quantum component is the most complex because it's science, and I've always been interested in science, but it's never been a very strong area for me. But I do feel that science and spirituality are one. They're not separate. One explains the other, and they both work together as a unit. Because the universe is all math and numbers, right? I think the universe it speaks to us in math and numbers. It also speaks to us through the clairs. So for a scientist, I think spirituality comes through those formulas and those numbers and the Fibonacci spirals and so on. There's so many other things that they know that I don't know, but they put together, and it demonstrates and proves to them that there's something greater in this universe than just us and just rocks, right? And just planets and suns. There's something greater at work. And I come from a place of my spirituality and connecting through my own energy field to that divine energy and knowing that it exists, and then touching on quantum consciousness and quantum theory as a tool to say, yeah, see you guys, there it is, right? But I don't need that proof, but I think it's fabulous that it's there, and I think it's wonderful that it's coming to the forefront. And I think very soon it's going to go nuclear, and very soon all the stuff that these physicists need to pull all their theories together, and formulas will be revealed to them. And that very simple formula that explains the theory of everything will be available to all of us, scientists and the spiritual community alike. So there's something that happened that I wouldn't call a vision, but it keeps coming back to me every day. Every day it comes back to me. And I know when that happens, I have to address it in some way. And I don't really want to talk about it. But I will. So I just I was home and I was sitting on my couch, and I closed my eyes, and all of a sudden I just saw it. It wasn't me. It was someone else, and I'm just moving. I'm moving my arms up, down, across. I'm blocking, I'm striking. My weight is shifting, and there's someone coming at me. I'm defending myself against this one person. And I notice in the background that somewhere there's a door. So I see the door right here in my field, but I know intuitively the door is not there. I know there's a door somewhere, but I don't know. I can't say where it is. I can just feel it, right? And the first thing that pops in my mind is I watch a lot of Asian movies. I think they're great. They're kind of like westerns in the United States, the martial arts, and you always see them. A lot of the times you'll see them practicing their martial art, and they'll be blindfolded, right? But they still know where their assailant is. And so when I saw that, I knew that even though I saw the door here, that the door wasn't necessarily right here. It was just I was aware of it, and I could respond to it if I needed. Meaning, as I'm moving my arms up and I'm blocking and I'm striking, I say to myself, oh my God, what if somebody comes in the door? What if somebody comes in the door? And I hear a voice, and he says, no, we stay right here. We are right here in this moment. We stay right here. And I got really upset, and I started crying, and because I knew in that moment right there, first thing that came to my mind was, oh my God, they mastered time also. Not just the emotional body, but time. They know only time is now. The only time that exists is now. There is no time. So if I've said this before, and I don't know if people can grasp this, but think of it this way. Time, the construct of time on this world, is a way to order information, right? We order this experience. We're ordering the information from this experience as past, present, and then we also think about future, right? our future vacation, or what we want to do after we graduate from college and stuff like that. Okay, so we have past, present, and future. That's the construct of this world. Other worlds don't see it the same way, but that's how it is here on Earth. But truthfully, all time exists right now in this moment. Every moment is happening simultaneously. When I talk about past lives, they're not past, they're happening right now. All time is happening right now. And so that kind of goes into this wave-based reality. So every action I experience that raises my vibration across all my lifetimes. Okay, so I got really upset because this person who I am responding to, working with, I don't know how to look at it, just is kind of giving me I wanted to say is kind of giving me a lesson, but he's not, and maybe I'll explain that later. But he said to me, right now, we're here right now, that's all there is right now, and we're dealing with this right now, that's it. It was all upper body and shifting his lower body, his weight, but that's it, and slightly moving his feet, but that's all he was doing. There was an incredible amount of control in every movement. No, emotionally, just very even, very calm, very controlled, very, very skilled, highly skilled, highly skilled. This is a force to be reckoned with. And I think I got so emotional because if we have that emotional mastery, and then also we have this understanding of time, this is an energy that is more powerful than I could have imagined. And I don't know if they know they're as powerful as they are. Then I started thinking to myself, so I had already said, what if somebody else comes in the door? And I was told, stay right here, right now. Then I started panicking because I'm like, oh my God, I'm splitting his consciousness. He's going to be distracted. That makes him vulnerable. And I started panicking. And we're like, nope, right here, right now. And then I got emotional again because when I asked about someone coming through the door, I had this understanding of the heart. So you can only train so much, right? You can only be so strong. You can only be so fast. And when you're dealing with one person, one assailant, let's say, and all of a sudden, let's say some more come through the door. I saw 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'm just thinking to myself, how do you adjust to this new circumstance? Because he said, we're here right now. We're not going to worry about anything else until it happens. But we're not even there. We're not even engaging or entertaining that. We are just right here, right now. He wasn't thinking about that. I was, okay? But then the information about the multiple individuals came in, and how do you address that? And how are you successful in that? When you access your heart. And so I'm also going to talk about the Trojan Horse. I hope I don't forget about the Trojan Horse, but so I'm talking about the men in the special forces when they go out on a mission, I would say. I don't know what they call it. I would call it a mission. As a group, as a team, let's say 5, 6, 7, they have a very specific task, and there's just a certain number of men that go out, and they all have a job. And if one person is unable to do their job, it increases the vulnerability for the rest of the team by multiple. It could even be exponential, right? And so they need to survive, be healthy and functional, in order to increase their probability of success. And so as they deal with multiple assailants, this is one man's experience that I'm having. He accesses his heart. He fully accesses his heart to increase his, I want to say, ability, skill set, but it's really not that. So he can only be so fast. He can only move in so many directions at once, and he only has 2 arms, 2 legs, right? He has his head, he has other body parts, right? But he only has so much he can work with. And how he is successful in engaging multiple assailants is by accessing his heart. And he accesses his heart and the love that he has for the man to the left and right of him that he's working with to be successful at his task. That is what creates the most powerful individual that you could even imagine, because that heart can drive him like nothing else. The love he has for the men around him, but then also, I've touched on this before, the love of country, the love of his family, the love of freedom. They have been trained, and I'll say brainwashed maybe a little bit, to fight for their country and fight for their families, fight for the freedoms of American citizens, and fight for each other. And when he becomes vulnerable, all that kicks in, and it ignites him, and it ignites his heart. And all of a sudden he's amped up. And I guess I've heard stories about women mothers who lift cars off their kids who are in danger, right? It's kind of like the same thing. It's like you're able to do the impossible because you're driven from the love that you carry in your heart. It's not just the training. You can only train someone so much. You have to be able to access the heart. And it was really upsetting for me to experience that, because after it kept coming back to me, every day for like the last 4 or 5 days, then I'm like, how am I in this man's head? How am I experience it? And then so intimately, because I felt my body moving. I felt every thought. I felt like it was me, but I knew it wasn't me. And at first I'm like, when you access the higher self, you access the divine. I've said this in many videos. From the divine, you access all energy in the universe from that place. You are interconnected to all energy in the universe through the divine. So I'm like, I must be accessing through the higher self and through the divine, and then he's allowing me into his energy field because I'm matching his vibration, right? I'm matching his vibration, so I'm not a threat to him. So he's allowing me in his energy field. But then as I was moving through this day after day, I was like, that wasn't me when I said, oh my God, what if someone comes in the door? That wasn't me pointing that question out to him. That was him in that moment thinking, oh my God, what if someone comes in that door? And he moved himself back into center. He's like, no, right here. I stay right here. And then the implications of that was, for me, I'm like, so am I this man? And I would offer that once we, as individuals separate from the divine, once we start to unify and understand our connection to the divine, and we access that, and we have proven through our intentions and our actions that we are sincere in manifesting balance and beauty and goodness, from balance, beauty, and goodness for the universe, for this world and the universe, we are able to access this divine knowledge. And I believe and I feel like that's kind of where it went. I was able to access this information through the universal source as myself. When I matched the vibration, I became that individual. Okay? Because after going through that over and over and over, I didn't feel separate. I felt completely connected. I felt unified, and I felt like it was seamless. And so it was really emotional, but these men have mastered the emotional body, they have mastered time, and they have mastered the heart. They have mastered the heart. And I think what made it so emotional is I thought I was only working from this place of the emotional body. The most effective of these men are the ones who carry the most humility, who've released ego, because there are some who may have a little bit of ego that they're struggling with. But it just kept coming to me so much, I couldn't not say anything. I had to talk about it, and it's not something I really wanted to discuss, but it was pretty profound. I think, so this takes me to the Trojan Horse. So these men carry so much good in them, and so much love for their country, and so much love for the people of this country, and so much gratitude for our freedom and for our Constitution, that they were willing to fight for it in a most aggressive manner and do what most people can't. Just because they don't have the skill set. Strength, coordination, intuitive. You have to be very high on the scale. Let's just say whatever scale they're using, you have to be really high on the scale in all these areas to be able to even be considered, and then you have to make it through the training, right? So these men are exceptional in their skill sets and what their potential is. And they also carry an incredible amount of goodness. I would also generalize and say that many individuals in the military are from the Bible Belt. So there is a very strong sense of faith. Whatever the religious denomination is, doesn't matter, just being strong in your faith. At least a lot of the people I've met, I would say that about in the recent past. And so they carry so much goodness in them, and so they were so willing to fight for our rights or fight for our country. Every act that they engaged in, they did it from that place of goodness, okay? That place of trying to assure our freedom. So one of the things, or one of many things that will be revealed, is that I would say I feel like our military was used more as a strong arm for these corporations who really do own everything. And so they're kind of like ghosts. So we don't see them, but they do exist. And our presidents and prime ministers are more like managing partners or managers for the people, okay? They're not really the decision makers. The decision makers are way up at the top, way above any type of government. And so our military, all militaries, are used as tools to get countries or leaders that aren't cooperating to cooperate. And so the way that negative energy can get their agendas played out is by coming in as white hats, as saviors, as helpers, okay? And so when you're driving from goodness, when you're driving from love, you go into another country that has done nothing wrong, but just won't yield to this negative polarity, right? And so you send these really, these men in to get them to do what you want, or if this country won't do what you want or give you what you want, you send these people in to take it. But you have to, in order for you to usurp or take advantage of these people, these countries, and you're coming from a negative place, right? And these countries, let's say, are good, shining bright light, right? How can this negative polarity overtake this light energy, right? Because love is so much more powerful than darkness, okay? Love is so much more powerful than fear. How does that happen? It happens when you have all these highly skilled men driving from their heart, driving from love. Compartmentalization prevents them from knowing what they're doing or why they're doing it. They believe they're fighting for freedom. They believe they're fighting for the United States. They believe they're fighting for their families, right? They believe they're fighting for all the things that they were told they're fighting for, right? They have to keep the information compartmentalized, because if they knew they were fighting so that this negative polarity could steal the children from this country, or they can steal the data for their banking or something of that effect, right? To that effect. If they knew they were doing something dark like that, they would never do it. I believe they wouldn't do it. So they have to be told that they're doing something good, that they're doing something to protect the interests of the United States, to protect the interest of humanity, of United States citizens, of our freedoms, right? They have to believe that they're doing something from a place of goodness. And so they fight from that place, from their heart. And so they're fighting from light energy. And that's how this negative energy has been able to manipulate this goodness in people to overtake this goodness in these other countries or these other rulers, right? And so I'll go back to my video my last video where I talked about more about my hands and my feet swelling up, and I talked about also about the protective field and how my negative thoughts can create tears in that protective field that I put around me that allows that negative energy to come in and affect my health. I would say I know what happened that caused my hands and feet to swell so bad and my joints to swell. I know what happened. And there was a very sweet young lady that came into my energy field. I don't think she had any idea what she was doing. I truly don't. She was so sweet. But I think she was used as a carrier for this thing that I was exposed to. In the end, the doctor just said, I think you had some type of a virus that caused the swelling and all the issues in your joints, because they couldn't find anything wrong with me. But I feel like that is what happened. And so the way that they got that negativity into my energy field was through this very light, kind, considerate person. Because it literally happened it started within hours after this interaction with this person. So I'm just telling you this because we need to understand that there are many things that are perceived as good that are not. And I do believe that that's going to be revealed over the next year. And I do believe it's going to be very difficult for people. So it's really important to start to tap into our intuitive selves and tap into our spirituality and tap into the higher self and look for and seek that guidance and seek that wisdom that is available to all of us through the higher self. I'm not judging. I'm not judging anybody. So I'm going to go back. I'm sorry I got a little bit off track, but I'm going to go back to talking about how these men were driving from the heart and they were used as tools by this negative polarity because they were so filled with light energy that they could usurp the light energy of these other countries or these other leaders to achieve the goals of this negative polarity. I'm so lost in time right now. It's so difficult for me to understand to grasp time these days, like I used to, let's say 5 years ago or even 2 years ago. But I think I did a video a year or so ago where I talked about how this negative polarity created their own demise. They created their own demise. They trained these men to control the emotional body because they have to control the emotional body to be able to go in and do a lot of these, to do all of these missions or engagements or interactions or whatever you call them. They needed to have that control of the emotional body. They needed to stay in the moment and address each issue as it arose. They couldn't get ahead of themselves because they lose sight of what's going on right now. And that's could be very detrimental. So they gave them those two skills. But they used fear as a tool to control them. Okay? Fear of death or not fear of death, but fear of something happening to their friends, fear of something happening to their country, to their freedoms. They use that as a tool of empowerment. They didn't teach them to access the heart, but they learned that through trial and error. Okay? And the most powerful things we can do right now during transcendence is learn about the emotional body and learn how to maintain the balance of the emotional body. The most powerful thing we can learn about, the second most powerful thing, is understanding time, that all time is right now, to not dwell in the past and not focus too much on the future, because what we need to focus on is what's happening right now. And as we act in each moment and how we treat each other, whether it's positive or negative, we manifest our future. So this moment right now, as I engage you, is an act that's helping me manifest my future, in trying to share this information from a place of love and light, in an attempt to create change on this world, to help people find balance, to help people access the higher self and the divine through that higher self. Me doing that and committing to that every week at least, and listening to the messages and ordering the information and trying to speak in a way that people can hear and understand and relate to and use in their daily life. As I do this, I am manifesting my future. I'm creating good karma. I'm putting out good thoughts that will bring positive energy back to me. I'm creating abundance, okay? Energetic abundance. That can be just energy. It could be thoughts. It could be kindness. It could be an opportunity. It could be financial. It could be mind, body, or spirit. Anything in those realms is open to abundance, okay? So all of these men have mastered all three of these areas: time, emotional body, and heart. Okay, they have mastered this, and they are the most powerful source of change in the world right now. If they're coming from goodness, and they're coming from love and light, coming and unifying, they are the most powerful source of goodness, because they have mastered it, and they don't even know it. I don't know if they know that, but these words right now have created a crack in the dam, and once that crack starts, it's going to get bigger and bigger, and all of a sudden there's just going to be a flood of water coming through that dam, and it's going to be their awareness, because that's all it takes. Just one little connection. Just like Helen Keller. If you ever watched the movie, it's when she understood that water that she was touching was water, the word that she was signing under her hand, that opened up the world to her to be able to communicate with people and understand the world around her. Okay, that's the same thing. As soon as that dam cracks and those connections are made, mind, body, and spirit, and the more people that make those connections, mind, body, and spirit, and the more these men from the specially trained special forces make that connection, that they have already mastered mind, body, and spirit, the emotional body, time, and the heart, this change is going to start happening more rapidly. They're trying everything to slow it, to stop it. It's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. But as we start to become more aware of our inner power, our inner divinity, we are going to start the ball rolling faster and faster in our favor to create change and balance on this world. And I wasn't going to say the name of the person who I was in having the experience, but it keeps coming in because I have to send a message. And it was Michael Jaco. He was about in his mid-20s. I would say he was about 25. I don't feel like it was in Vietnam. We were in a building, and the room was dark, and I could see the door. The door was yellow, but I don't know where the door was in relation to my body. And the reason why is because I have to say his name is because he's a very powerful energy. And he's surrounded by lions and dragons. He's heavily fortified and protected. He's got lions and dragons all around him. And that was a very strong message that came in today. And I just felt like I had to say it. I think because there's a lot of energetic attacks coming in. And so there's a very strong protective field being put around him. I think that's it. Thank you.